appear in the social media everywhere. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you that are participating in this conversation. It is being broadcasted in SADF YouTube channel and also Facebook channel. And we are using StreamYard for this conversation. Actually, we thought that we could do it indoors, but then, a lot of things happened. And so we are not doing it. Well, let's go straight to the point because we have a lot of very, very distinguished speakers to join us in a variety of places and circumstances, from Karachi to somewhere on the road in Italy to the south of Belgium to Brussels. And the issue is the political crisis in Pakistan. What can we expect out of it? And for addressing the issue, our panel is very complete. I'm going to present one by one the speakers, but I would start by inviting Dr. Siegfried Wolf, who is our Director of Research here in SADF, and is a political scientist and is an expert on Pakistan, and he has been following the political crisis. And after he speaks, we will see consequences and possibilities from a variety of angles on human rights. But Dr. Siegfried Wolf, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Paulo, thank you very much for your kind words of introduction. I will go straight into my points. To start with, I want to make some primarily comments how I see the situation at the moment. First, we have to be aware that until now, no prime minister in Pakistan ever finished his term. And this is important to understand, to know, to contextualize. And this ousting of governments are actually as old as Pakistan by itself. And frankly speaking, all major political actors were somehow involved in ousting of governments. The second basic point we have to make is to understand is that the current no confidence vote or attempt to oust Khan is not the first one in his young political career. There were several attempts in the last years to remove Khan from office. For example, 2019 was the Azadi March, organized by a cleric called Maulana Rahman from Jamaat Ulema Islam. This was 2019, which ended up in the siege of Islamabad, and only with the help of the intervention of the military, the situation could calm down. Then 1 year later, the Pakistan Democratic Movement, a major alliance against Khan, was formed, which exists until now, and is a main driving force, or the driving force. And earlier this year, we had the Quadra protest, which was not directly against or not favoring the removal of Khan, but it has a tremendous impact on his political stability. The third point which I want to make in this context is, which we have to understand, all the charges against Imran Khan at the moment are, for me, not new. When it comes to corruption, the worsening of the economic condition, overall condition, general mismanagement of the affair of states, inflation, high prices, is all well known since years. But of course, there's a tendency, it's getting worse and worse, the situation, this is for sure. But the complaints we have today about also this personal style of government, this increasing autocratic style, this was already issues which are raised 2 years ago. So considering this, I'm wondering why this vote of confidence is happening now, and to make a forecast, and we have to understand, and we have also asked what changed so dramatically during the last months or weeks, which makes the ousting of Imran Khan so likely. So what is weakening his political resilience? In this context, I actually want to make two arguments. The first one, how I see it, is that the opposition at the moment want to use somehow the favor of the hour, I would call. What we see is a persistent declining of the support base of Imran Khan. And there was a concrete threat or fear among the opposition lawmakers that Khan had the idea to go ahead and dissolve the parliament and to call for new election. And to avoid such a situation, the opposition moved in the vote for confidence motion, no confidence motion, in order to block this opportunity for Khan. Then it's like this in Pakistan: when you file such a motion, the prime minister has no right anymore to dissolve the parliament. This we have to keep in mind. And the second issue I see is that the opposition wants to gain some kind of political capital out of the current situation. Within the coalition, there are rising tension, frustration among the partners of Imran Khan, and within the ruling party, PTI, are increasing tensions. And this leads me to my second argument, which pushes for the change which we see at the moment, is the biggest threat from my perspective for Imran Khan political survival at the moment is the internal tensions within the PTI. Yeah, and there are most noteworthy is the issue is that two leading business people who are the main support of Khan are seem to turn away from Khan. In particular, it's a very domestic issue. The announcement of the appointment of Usman Bushta in Punjab as chief minister was not well taken by PTI members, in particular by the leading members, and so this created tensions. And this, for example, Tareen is an important business person which has a tremendous influence. I think the Tareen faction is approximately 8 members of the parliament, the national parliament, and this gives an indication how strong they are. Khan reacted. He dismissed the chief minister Bushta, or initiated the dismission. And the second point, as he did, he initiated something which I call, or created this so-called foreign conspiracy, which is also not new, but for me it's clear, which brings me also to the point what we can expect. I mean, Khan is still fighting for his position, but and nothing is decided yet, but I have somehow the feeling that Khan is already aware that he will might most likely lose his post, and is preparing already for a new election campaign in which he wants to present him as anti-West, as staunch supporter of Pakistan national interest, and describe him as a victim of traitors which is organized from abroad. But this would be so my first impression, how I see the current situation, and so actually everything is possible. We can see perhaps that Khan will survive the no confidence vote, but we can also see perhaps a constitutional crisis due to this PTI internal issues. This is another issue we can talk later, or new election. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Dr. Siegfried Wolf. I think it was an excellent start. Before proceeding, just allow me to tell you, to say that I think this development in itself is very positive. I mean, we were accustomed to see governments to be depending, to be thrown out by military coups. And it's not a military coup. This is a constitutional parliamentary mechanism. It really for for those of us that have been going through the discussion, it seems like more animated than the House of Cards. The House of Cards is plainly democratic. So this is a very positive point from this perspective. We are not sure, because the horse trading is, which happens very often in all democracies, is going on. We are not sure about the outcome, as Dr. Wolf just said. If it does not survive, and if the opposition manages, because they must immediately get their prime minister elected in the parliament, get majority support. If they don't get this support, there will be new elections. This parliament otherwise will last up the summer of next year. So it is a bit more than a month. So all the possibilities are still open. The game is very, very alive. But the issue is, to me, well, democracy is going, but what about human rights that are the backbone of any democratic system? And all of us around this panel, we have been very much concerned with things like the blasphemy laws and its consequences. And this is the main issue that we will now debate. And to proceed our conversation, I would now invite Marcela Szymanski. She is the editor-in-chief of the Religion Freedom in the World. She is the head of the EU office of the International Public Affairs for International Public Affairs of Aid to Church in Need. It's a very powerful, important organization. And Marcela, you have been giving a lot of strength for defending religious freedom all over. I think that the first time we met was exactly on Iraq, was not on Pakistan. And I have a tremendous admiration for you. And I'm very, very thankful for everything you have been doing on this issue. Please, Marcela, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this meeting at these opportune times. Because if we continue waiting for these things, everything to calm down or everything to come back to normal, and all these phrases that we have been hearing for years, we know that the events will go ahead of ourselves. So it's important that we continue this reflection. Thank you very, very much, Paulo, for organizing this before it is too late, So yes, indeed, Aid to the Church in Need is a pontifical foundation which publishes a report on religious freedom, but as being based in Brussels, I also do the advocacy, and together with other colleagues, we follow up what's been going on in the relationship of the European Union with Pakistan. They have this peculiar instrument that they use more actively with Pakistan than with other countries which have the same treatment, and that is called the Generalized System of Preferences Plus, the GSP Plus, which is a way to eliminate or almost eliminate trade tariffs, so customs duties from exports. And by using this, they say, okay, this is the carrot. You will not have to pay for any export that you do to the European Union, but we demand really, not another term, we demand that you respect 27 core international conventions on human and labor rights, environmental protection, and good governance. So these 27 agreements have been signed by Pakistan some decades ago, some relatively recently, but they are put in a list very clearly, and they say you want to export without tariffs, then you comply with this. And every year we review and we see how far you are, because of course the assumption is that they are not complying. It's not that they are complying, it's that they are not complying. So every single year there are conditions that are put in order to continue this system of preferences, which when found in terrible fault can be suspended or held out or partially suspended. Now, what are we talking about here? We are talking about this GSP plus this system is in place since January 2014. So for 8 years it has been functioning. Then the EU buys, the European Union buys 28% of all Pakistan exports. Okay, this represents 5.5 billion euro, 5,537 million euro, which is a very important quantity of money, of goods that Pakistan sells to the European Union free of import taxes. So this, of course, is mostly textiles and clothing. I don't know, Dr. Siegfried, what is the business line of the two very supportive businessmen of Prime Minister Khan? But probably in one way or the other, they have to do with the very extremely important industry of the textile and clothing. The foreign direct investment of the European Union in Pakistan uses the GSP Plus as an indicator of confidence. It has been going pretty well, not that spectacularly growing, but it hasn't diminished because every time foreign direct investors look at the condition of the relationship with the European Union, is the GSP still going on? Yes. Okay, then it's still an indicator that it is safe for us to invest. But is it? You see, we have to wonder if really those who are reviewing every year the condition of compliance with those 27 core international treaties are really looking where they should. So the minorities, we are looking mostly, as I to the Church in Need and many of us in the European Union, we are looking at the respect of the rights of minorities. In this case, we are going to talk about minorities of certain religious backgrounds. So we are talking about the largest minorities are 4 million Christians and 3 million Hindu. So these are the minorities that we look at, that they are rapidly returning, because they were not at first, but then every time the GSP Plus is supposed to give us hope that they will stop being second-class citizens. They are Pakistani, but they do not enjoy the same rights as the other. And we are talking about 7 million people. So it's not like just a little bit. No, we are now scandalized by the 4 million IDPs of Ukraine, and it's really terrible how they were treated and became a victim. This is completely another thing, a full-out war. But being every single day put aside as if you were completely made of another material also has a long-term negative effect on a country. So we at Aid to the Church in Need made an analysis to look at how come that those 27 international agreements since 2014, they are like, yeah, we're making an effort. It's going more or less right. And we think that a big part of it is because the ones who are reviewing the compliance are only those involved in trade, DG trade, a little bit, or well, more and more the External Action Service. But it's necessary that bodies of the European Union, such as those looking at children's rights, women's rights, access to justice, and very importantly, development aid, are more involved in this. Why? Because Pakistan has a very, very good legal system, very well structured. Now that it functions, that is something that we will hear from Master Tabassum Yousaf. But the lack of implementation of the laws adopted is the biggest problem. So they come, those who are reviewing from the EU, they discuss with the members of government, and they are told, we have this law, this is a new one, this one is being discussed, and this one has been approved, but they are not implemented, and that is where the problem is. There has been no improvement on press and media freedom, which makes that we have it more and more difficult to find reliable information of what is really happening, but we do find it. And there we have found that there are at least 10 fundamental rights, which are supposed to be for all Pakistanis, 10 fundamental rights covered in 5 of the most important international treaties for the respect of civil and political rights, of labor rights, etc., that have a really strong effect. And we have found evidence in cases of violations for cases of freedom of expression, as I mentioned, freedom of association, because it's not possible to have any organization or association that could derange the religious sentiments of the people. Then we have problems with the freedom of education, which are, of course, more represented in the single national curriculum adopted in August last year, where several conditions are imposed in such a way that it looks like it's a free educational system, but doesn't allow you to continue your education after 18 years old if you have not memorized basically most of the Quran. You will hear more about this from Dr. Mobeen and Dr. Yousaf. But then freedom of religion is, of course, very, very curtailed, because nothing can be said or published or anything that could derange the Muslim faith. And then we have the blasphemy laws, which everybody knows. We'll hear also more from the experts. The freedom to marry and the prohibition of children marriage, which is really, really tough in Pakistan, because several initiatives of law have been tabled by the opposition, and they have been killed almost at the last minute by some cleric. So that predominance of the Sharia law over the civil law has caused a lot of problems. And this, of course, should derange EU businessmen and anybody doing business with Pakistan that is benefiting from the GSP plus, because they count on some laws and they can be overridden by a cleric, any law. Then we have the political rights violations, which are terrible, but they are giving us hope. As Paulo was saying, this is not a coup. This is a political exercise of the vote of non-confidence, so that's not bad. However, it is very clear that these religious minorities are heavily underrepresented in the parliament. So this also should not be subject of quotas, etc., like second-class citizens are in general. Access to justice is, of course, very difficult. We'll hear more from Tabassum. We know that she has to run from one court to the other in different provinces when she's defending one case of a girl who has been abducted and sexually enslaved by someone who pretends to marry her. And these are things that are really serious obstacles for the second-class citizens, again. And then the right to housing, which is also very, very curtailed by only for certain profiles of citizens, which exclude these minorities. So all these situations, as Dr. Siegfried was saying, this is not new. This has existed for 2 years. No prime minister has finished his term ever. So the European Union is used to this upheaval, etc. However, the negotiations to renovate the GSP Plus are now, or were now rather, in full swing. Pakistan had made a very important deployment of its best diplomats to every single European Union member state with great effect. And now what is going to happen? Because DG Trade was supposed, the Directorate of Trade of the European Union was supposed to go to Pakistan now, and they suspended their trip because of this vote of no confidence. So at some point they will go and again start analyzing, but under what power, under whose authority, etc. So it is a moment to inform really all the politicians that might be involved, but it's also a very uncertain time for human rights in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcela. I think that the message was loud and clear. The European Union has very strong instruments. And so if the human rights are being degraded in Pakistan, and unfortunately, I think it is undisputed that they are, the European Union has a lot to answer for this. And I am very happy to have people like her and people like Willy Fautré, who is the director and co-founder of Human Rights Without Frontiers, which he founded already in December 1988. He has been in the cabinet of the Belgian Ministry of Education and in the Belgian Parliament as well. You have an enormous curricula. Miss Tabassum Yousaf, whenever you feel that it is the time for you, if you want, I can, because I did not introduce you yet properly, but it is our surprise guest. But if you allow me, I would like very much to give the floor now to Willy Fautré, because he is the director of an organization that I am now following day by day, and it is absolutely amazing the way that you are really covering human rights. We are very much indebted to you. We are very much honored that you took the time to come to our conversation. Please, really, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Paulo, for this kind of introduction. I will just add a few words to say that we are non-political organization and we are not linked to any religious group. So as I've been asked to give a brief overview of the global situation of human rights in Pakistan, I would say that a single word could be sufficient to summarize it, and it is the word grim. The situation is grim in Pakistan. Let's concretely have a look at a few areas. Freedom of expression, for example. Restrictions on the right of freedom of expression have intensified in the last 2 years, with journalists and human rights defenders coming under increased scrutiny. And you know how it can be understood, increased scrutiny. A climate of fear impedes media coverage of abuses by both government, security forces, and militant groups. Journalists who face threats and attacks have increasingly resorted to self-censorship, unfortunately. And media outlets have come under pressure from authorities not to criticize government institutions or the judiciary. In several cases last year, the government regulatory agencies blocked cable operators and television channels that had aired critical programs. Several journalists last year suffered violent attacks. In April last year, an unidentified assailant shot and wounded Afslah Alam, a TV journalist, outside his house in Islamabad. Adlam had been a prominent critic of the government. 25th of May of last year, another journalist, Asad Ali Tor, was assaulted by 3 unidentified men who forcibly entered his apartment in Islamabad, bound and gagged him, and severely beat him. Tor said that they identified themselves as being from a security agency, interrogated him about the source of his funds, and took away his cell phone and other electronic devices. The government ordered an investigation into the incident, but no findings, of course, were ever made public. Freedom of religion or belief. Well, other speakers after me will extensively cover this issue, but in brief, Ahmadis remain banned as a heretical group. No change either concerning laws criminalizing apostasy and alleged blasphemous behaviors punishable by life imprisonment and even by death. Pakistan has, well, globally speaking now, Pakistan has currently more than 4,600 prisoners on the death row, one of the world's largest populations facing executions. Those on death row are often from the most marginalized sections of society. In our database of religious prisoners, we have documented cases of 16 Ahmadis and 26 Christians, a number of them being on the death row as well. In practice, there are forced conversions of young girls from non-Muslim background after they have been kidnapped and forcefully married to Muslim men. There is also a persistent climate of extreme social hostility and mob violence against Christians and Ahmadis, leading to killings. Another human rights, the abuse of women and girls. Violence against women and girls, including rape, murder, acid attacks, domestic violence, and forced marriage, is endemic throughout Pakistan. Human rights defenders estimate that roughly 1,000 women are killed in so-called honor killings every year. Children's rights and education. Even during the before the COVID-19 pandemic, over 5 million primary school-aged children in Pakistan were out of school, most of them girls. Girls usually miss school for reasons including lack of schools for them, costs associated with studying, child marriage, harmful child labor, and gender discrimination. Freedom of assembly. Protests are usually violently dispersed. In March of last year, the annual Aurat March, the country's largest women's movement, faced hostility and threats from various actors, including private citizens, journalists, political parties, and an armed group who opposed Aurat's March work. Following the movement's fourth annual International Women's Day March, videos of the event were doctored by non-state actors to levy blasphemy allegations against the organizers and participants in this march. Excessive use of force, another area of concern. Pakistan law enforcement agencies were responsible for numerous human rights violations, including detention without charge and extrajudicial killings. Law enforcement agents cracked down on demonstrations by a Pashtun movement, which campaigns against the racial profiling, discrimination, and extrajudicial execution of Pashtuns. In August last year, police used excessive force against health workers and students protesting a new qualification exam in Lahore. Nothing threatening the regime, in fact. At least 20 of the participants were injured. Sexual and gender-based violence. A series of cases of sexual and gender-based violence were reported, underscoring the lack of protection for women and igniting renewed calls for redress, accountability, and reform. Enforced disappearances. An example. Yunus Anwar, General Secretary of a civil society organization, was abducted, allegedly, by security agencies in August 2021, days before protests were held in Islamabad by families of victims of enforced disappearance. His fate is now remains unknown, despite promises of Pakistan's Prime Minister. And the last issue I will raise is torture. A glimpse of hope here, a glimpse. Because in mid-July 2021, the Senate, which is the upper house of the bicameral parliament, unanimously passed a bill criminalizing torture and preventing custodial killings by police or other government officials. Until then, there had been no law against torture in Pakistan. The law states that any public servant involved in torture would face up to 10 years imprisonment and a heavy fine. If a public servant whose duty is to prevent torture either intentionally or negligently fails to prevent it, he or she will face up to 5 years imprisonment and fine. It means the mistreatment of Christians in prison or in custody by public servants can from now on be prosecuted, including, of course, in the case of Christians, Hindus, and others who are arrested, whatever their forms of expression. The European Union and the European Commission in particular are aware of all those cases. They come from public sources, open sources. But the problem is, like Pakistan, they have laws, sometimes difficult to have such laws against torture, for example, to be adopted. The problem is the non-implementation of the laws. They just remain words and are not translated into acts. Now it's up to the European Union to take this issue very seriously, because they cannot say they are not aware and that they don't know the human rights situation in Pakistan, and to implement the GSP+. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Willy. I think it was excellent the way that you covered the whole of the situation. I think that we all learn a lot reading the bulletins of Human Rights Without Frontiers, and this was an excellent point of the situation. Well, if Ms. Tabassum Yousaf, if you are ready, this is our surprise guest. She is speaking out of Karachi. She is an attorney. She is an advocate in the High Court. She is based in Karachi. And I think that our best hopes for all the countries where there are such problems of human rights are actually brave women like you that are on the spot working on the issues. I really would like you to feel comfortable and to tell us what you have been going, what are your challenges, how do you see the situation, how do you think people in the European Union can help the women in Pakistan?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all from Karachi, Pakistan. First of all, as we listen from Dr. Wolf and from Dr. Willy and Marcela, and thank you, Marcela, for having me opportunity for this beautiful occasion that I can share what are the minorities of Pakistan are suffering and what's European Union and other country have to do for better Pakistani minorities to get the justice and speedy justice, and no discrimination and bias judgment should be passed for when the cases are in the court of the minorities. As we learned from the previous speakers, that we listen that how many cases of the forced conversion are and child marriages in Pakistan. Now the number is continuously increasing. As per the record of Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, it is 2,000 per year. The minor girls from Karachi, from Pakistan, 2,000 girls from minority who has been married and forcefully converted to Islam. And when the cases are in session court or in the high court, the result in the judgment, you can see the judgments are not clear about the law. The problem is that, as Marcela says that they and also the other speakers, that when we are become the signatories in any convention, we made to get the benefit of the GSP plus or many things. We write many drafts and pass many bills. And sorry to say that Pakistan is overloaded with the laws, but there is no implementation of the laws. The problem is this: we are overloaded with the laws. There are many laws, but there is no implementation. As we see, there is a Child Marriage Disdain Act in 1929, but as we see in the province of the Sindh province also write the bill that was the Sindh Child Marriage Disdain Act when it became a law in 2013. Now according to the Sindh Child Marriage Disdain Act, 18 years child, whoever is a girl or a boy, marriage is illegal. But as a whole country, we see that the minor girl who has been abducted and forcefully married to a Muslim man, the age determination is a lengthy process in which judgments are also clear that she attained the age of puberty, and also now she is converted, and according to Islamic Shariat laws, there is no age limitation regarding the age of marriage of a minor girl, whether she is 14, 16, or 17. She can attain the age of puberty, and she can be still remain married to that abductor and sexually and psychologically abused by him, and she is continuously under the pressure. When she came to the court, her statement is not I can say that it is not against of her free will, because she was totally pressured, under the pressure of the person who has abducted and the family and the other elements who has been abducted, and help that to get the Islamic certificate, and also to get that the Islamic marriage solemnized certificate, nikah marriage certificate. That's the problem, that we should, as being as a European Parliament and other organization who are working for the human rights, we should that get the scrutiny that there is so many laws when the marriages of the child, or when the case is from the minorities, especially from Christian or a Hindu girls, as I am also doing the cases in Karachi, Pakistan, the minor girls. When I said to the judge that you said that marriage is illegal, but you did not write in any judgment, I give my application that you can also, it is my prayer that you can said that she will be freed and get back to her parents. She said, where is that law? I said, I give you the law, but she said that it is not possible for me that I give you the judgment. I said that she said that it is marriage is only illegal, but not she still remain in the custody of abductor, and no police investigation is still conducted to recover that minor girl, and she is not still with the parents. She is still with the abductor as a legal wedded wife according to them, but not according to the minority rights and according to the Sindh Child Marriage Restraint Act, because she is belong from the Sindh. Her name is Humayunas, and it is a case of forced conversion, and she is a child, and she is still in the custody of abductor. The court is, I'm sorry to say, being as a lawyer, being as a Christian lawyer, that when regarding to the judgment regarding to the minorities, the judgments are biased and prejudiced. We did not get the proper judgment. In few judgments, we can see that judge says that minor has been minor and she will remain in the custody of the parents, but not so many times. But the problem is that, as I see that whether the political situation in Pakistan is stabilized or not, the situation is that a few elements who are the extremists, who are always at the back of the mind, that they cannot give a sign of peace toward for being as a human, being as a Christian, being as a Hindu. Well, last month in February, we see that the 4 Christian boys have been extrajudicially killed in Pakistan, Karachi, Pakistan. The police said just only throw the cross they're wearing in the shirt, they throw it in the gutter. They said that in the main hole of the gutter. When they refused, they killed. They killed as they are criminal. The 4, 7, 5 bullets are shot. So these are extrajudicial killing, but there is no voice for them. There is no voice for a Hindu girl who was in the Sindh, just refused to marry a Muslim man. She was killed. And whether it is a case of Christian girls who has been lastly kidnapped from the Karachi Orangi town, she is also a 14 years old girl. And the man who was kidnapped and abducted her is a Muslim man. Police has the clear location where he was, but the letter was issued to the Home Department that they get the permission to go and arrest that person, but they still did not get the permission from the Home Department. So what we can say that if we are still waiting for from the other windows that where from the we get the justice, we are also Pakistanis, we are Christian Pakistani, we are also in the constitution of Pakistan, we have the same equal right written in the constitution of Pakistan in 1973. But as we see the access to the justice, freedom of speech, free access to the justice, it is totally not up to the mark. Child marriages, child psychological abuse, sexual abuse of the minorities is continuously goes on, and there is no speedy judgments when the matter is related to the child marriage. We have signatories that when the matter is related to the minor or child marriages or child or females or minorities, we get the speedy judgments, we get the speedy justice. But sorry to say, it is not happen. We being me being as a Pakistani, it is hope for to get the speedy justice and freedom of speech. As we see, any person who has no knowledge of any blasphemy, who has been also killed, as we see in the case of Parantha Kumar in Sialkot, who has been burnt and killed by the mob. We have to scrutinize the methods. How can we and the witnesses of the cases? We should strict element should be upon that cases. How can we get the justice? How can the false accusation of blasphemy? How can we get the justice in that cases? And also we get the justice in child marriages and forcefully conversion of the minor girls, especially from the minorities, and extrajudicial killing of minor from Christian from Pakistan. And we also seeing that the new crime is also involving that the person who have Christian who have the property in especially in Karachi, they have been grabbed and snatched by the land mafia. They produce the documents that it is not only belong to them, that they have the original documents. And the court judgment is clear that that is land is belong to that person, not from the minority, not that from the major community. So how can we see that there should be a more justice and more freedom of speech? As we see, the political situation of Pakistan is now going worse and worse. But to being as a my concern as a lawyer, it is that we should there should be a clear and speedy implementation of law. The judgment should be clear. The child rights should be protected. Minor marriages will be at the first stage when she gave a statement to the judicial magistrate, and she said that I am a major, when she was under the Korean and the pressure. And the judgment, she said the judges said that it was her free will, and she stated that she is now not only 14 or 16, she is 18. How can we say that even we though produce the birth certificate of the minor, that she or she is a minor, she is a child, she is church record also is shown, but there is no worth. Now they again get the verification from the government official Nadra to get the verification that these are documents are original or not. Then now the ossification test has been examined whether she is minor or not. The situation is that when initially we become as a signatory, and we said that we will give justice to the females and to the child. So when my recommendation is this, when the case of the forced conversion is in the court, minor should be recovered and protected if they did not give to the parents, if they should be protected the minor to give a shelter home, or to protect it in the safe house where she can use her will, and she can use thought her own mind, not under the pressure of, and she give the statement under the pressure. So there should be a speedy judgment, speedy access to the justice, and fair trial, not on any basis. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Yusuf, I think that your testimony is absolutely precious. I am very, very sad to hear what you just said. I think that all of us, we are. It is absolutely unbelievable that thousands of girls are being subjected to such treatments every year. The European Union has all the leverage to do something on this situation. And I think that this will certainly, your testimony will certainly be put in front of those who are ignoring the plight of human rights, those who are not caring for this religious supremacist ideology, for them to understand what are the consequences of their acts. We are in this conversation, we did not stop yet, we did not reach the end. We have a very important guest here.
Cannot hear or anything. I think that Paulo went offline. Huh?
Yeah, we don't hear Paulo.
Sorry, because there was a connection problem and an interruption. I think it was the network here that had some problem, but it was yes. I see that we have Shahid Mobeen. He is the founder of the Association of Pakistani Christians in Italy, and he has many other things, but he asked us to keep his presentation short. Just say that that's him. He has been driving. I just told him, well, okay, you might be driving, but before you speak, please stop the car. We do not want to be responsible for any accident. So I think he did stop the car already. Okay, he stopped the car. So thank you so much for your presence. And please go ahead and say from your point of view, which I think it is, as the name of your association indicates, is a point of view of religious minorities. Please tell us what do you think it is important to bear in mind in this political crisis. Let me just perhaps stress something that we actually that we already heard from Ms. Yusuf. What is worrying me the most is that Prime Minister Khan obviously is a religious extremist. He has been showing this time and time again. But in the opposition, we see some of the worst sort of extremists, namely the Jamaat-e-Islam and this Jamaat Ulema Islam F that has been very vocal, and they don't seem to be any better. Okay, that's one of the major concerns on this, what might happen in the future. But now the car is stopped, so please, Professor Shahid Mobeen, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your patience sitting in the car, driving from one office to the other. And thank you also for organizing this event. Thank you, Marcela, Paulo, and all the other speakers who gave very important aspects of the picture, which is Pakistan. And I would say, as it appears also from Willy's intervention, that there are problems for each citizen of Pakistan. Basically, even if they are rooted in poverty, but it shows also the history of Pakistan that religion, the card of religion, is played very well and is actually abused very well. So, in that sense, the constitution of Pakistan has been manipulated and amended. Now the 28th amendment is supposed to come, and the religious freedom is not exercised in Pakistan. There is the freedom of cult, but it is quite different from what is signed at the treaty with UNO. I would say just that we heard the examples of Christian and Hindu girls who are forcibly converted. But I will give an example of the abuse, and a very shocking abuse of this blasphemy law in Pakistan, which was called a black law by governor of Punjab, and his own bodyguard who was supposed to protect him killed him. So that kind of Islamic attitude is there, radical Islamic attitude is there, which goes against any law, recognized law, or even against any moral code which is there in our religion. The example I wanted to give is just of last week, where a 13-year-old Muslim minor girl had a dream that one of her teachers has committed a blasphemy. So she told to her relative teachers, who were 3 other women teachers in the madrasa. Madrasa is a Quranic school, so it is a female madrasa. So these 3 Muslim teachers, women, killed their colleague who is a Muslim just because their relative of 13 years dreamt that this teacher has committed blasphemy. So you see the stupidity, this kind of radicalization of the society can reach. So Pakistan is suffering this kind of extremism because it highly contributed in forming the Mujahideen, and those very Mujahideen, their children are produce the Taliban later on. Let them be Afghani Taliban or Pakistani Taliban, but at the end they are the ones who are doing a lot of damage, not only in Afghanistan but in Pakistan itself, and especially when they intervene against the armed forces of Pakistan, because they are considered the allies of the West. So Pakistan is continuously in a difficult situation, because when it intervenes in respect of the human rights and international law, which is, you see, the agreements made at the international level, it is considered a hand of, or an executor of the un-Islamic forces. Just like now, Prime Minister Imran Khan, who is now under the threat of being expelled from the parliament because of the non-confidence resolution presented with just day before yesterday, there were 175 members of the parliament from the opposition present, and his own PTI members have abandoned him, and they are around 22, and he is just left with 141 parliamentarians. So actually, he does not have any more the political majority of representation in the national parliament, and now he has he's trying to promote a kind of Islamic perspective, which actually is not so much related with Islam. It is his personal attempt to save himself and have a safe exit And the latest thing that he introduced, that he is receiving threats from USA. So much so that the Foreign Office from USA also announced that we don't have anything to do with this. So he is now trying to increase the anti-Western or anti-American sentiments in the people, and he's trying to save his face in front of the Pakistani citizens who have realized that his political agenda did not do much good to the people. And we Christians and other citizens of Pakistan are victims of this kind of political ideology. We didn't have much to do with religion, but even if he then abused the image of Islamic perspective and called it State of Medina, and so much so in this regard, I would say that from the very beginning, with high officials also, I highlighted the fact that I think that purposely Imran Khan government is not introducing or having a federal representation of religious minorities as it was in the time of Nawaz Sharif, as it was in the time of you see PPP government, that is Zardaris, and also in the time of Musharraf. So the religious minorities had high profile possibilities, including in the PPP government. My very good friend Shabazz Clement Bhatti, who is a martyr, who was killed because he was part of the commission to review the blasphemy law, and he was killed in Islamabad. Everybody must be knowing about him, and I will not go into the details, but he was killed because he was a Christian, nominated by the President of Pakistan to suggest the possibilities of reviewing the application of the blasphemy law, which is highly abused in Pakistan. European Union granted Pakistan the GSP status, asking to respect the 27 treaties, in particular also granting the protection of religious minorities. And I would say, first of all, granting the protection to religious minorities is present already in the Constitution of Pakistan. So European Union gave the possibilities of economic uplift to Pakistan, asking Pakistan to apply its laws, which Pakistan or the governments of Pakistan, and because I don't want to take too much the name of Pakistan, I am honored to be a Pakistani citizen. I love my country, but the governments which came never took it so seriously. So I question at this point how serious European Union was in this regard, because many times in these last years, European Union was informed that the implementation of this requirement regarding the protection of religious minorities is not being realized in Pakistan. So please evaluate what is happening really in Pakistan. And I hope with the new commissioner, who is doing very good job, there will be the realistic possibility of evaluating what is happening and encourage Pakistan to not only protect religious minorities, but also to provide the possibilities of economic uplift through education, and through also not only simply giving the state jobs or in the state institutions job, granting the jobs, as Shabazz Bhatti has secured that also, that 5% quota should be given to the religious minorities, but which is not actually implemented in the country. But at the same time, because the Christians or Hindus or Sikhs are not businessmen at the high level as the Muslim majority is doing, because no Muslim wants to buy food from a non-Muslim because they are considered impure. We have the example of Asya Bibi, who was accused of blasphemy and then condemned to death just because she drank water from the glass where the Muslim colleagues drank. So just because she was considered impure, so she has made the glass of water impure by touching that and drinking from there. So that kind of mindset in the society needs to be changed, and it is possible only through education. And in the name of education, Pakistan has taken from international community lot of money, but the last national curriculum, which Marcela also highlighted, which is introduced by the present government, is highly discriminatory against women, first of all, and second, it is discriminatory for the religious minorities in the Pakistan who are co-founders of Pakistan. We lost our elderly, the other Christians who were present in the time of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We can name them, and there are a lot of them, died founding Pakistan together with Jinnah. But they are never remembered. On the national days, nobody is going to talk of the non-Muslim co-founders of Pakistan. They will always talk of Jinnah, they will talk of Muhammad Iqbal, they will talk of so and so, but they will be all Muslims. It is because they at all levels of institutions, government and non-government, state or government or political or social institutions, the only consideration which is given is to the Muslim citizens. The Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, in papers, they are considered citizens, but in reality, they are discriminated totally. So what should Pakistan do? Instead of highlighting the problems, I would like to also suggest the possibilities for Pakistan to give equal rights to all citizens of Pakistan. And that is possible through education and implementation of the existing laws. As the Advocate Tabassum also highlighted, we are full with all those laws. We have each and every law present in Pakistan. If not exactly or directly in the Penal Code of Pakistan, we are signatories of the UNO treaties. So these laws are there. They can be applied if it is decided to do so. So that kind of mentality which is there needs to be changed, and it is possible only through education. But which syllabus are you going to give to the students or in all the nation? You want to form new mujahideen for something else? Or you want to educate citizens of Pakistan who contribute with honor and equal dignity for the growth of Pakistan, so that Pakistan can appear as a nation which contributes in the uplift of the humanity together with other honored countries. And I would say that is enough. Otherwise, I can continue talking of these things for a longer time. But in synthesis, I think some changes are necessary, and education is the way to help and develop in a society, in Pakistani society, a moderate vision of Pakistan. For some other decades, still we will be suffering for how the education was abused to create mujahideen in 70s and 80s. So we will still suffer those consequences. But if we do not change the syllabus now, if we don't change the mentality of the people and start projecting about it, planning about it, it is never going to occur. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very lively intervention. And it's very, very timely to remember Shahbaz Bhatti, and it is very telling as well how things developed, how actually the situation deteriorated constantly in the last few years. You touched the educational reforms. I could not agree more with you. SADF, in all our common papers, in all our analysis, we have always been saying the same thing. The issue of education is the most important of them all, because fanatics and all this religious supremacist ideology in Pakistan is being inculcated in children. And so this is the problem. It is a bottom-up phenomenon that we cannot overcome, from one day to the other. We will have to get a long-term strategy. This is different, for instance, for other countries. I've been accompanying, for instance, Iran. it's completely different. I mean, not because the authorities don't try that, but the society managed to react a different way, and so it is fundamentally top-down, the fanaticism. And at the bottom, at people, especially in the big urban centers, they couldn't care less about this supremacist ideology. But that's not the case in Pakistan. The example you just highlighted, and actually Willy was circulating yesterday a bulletin about that. It's unbelievable. It's ladies that murder one of them because dream there is a blasphemy. So it never ends. We are coming into a terrible scenario that never ends. I have been calling the attention to everyone in Europe that last year when we assisted to this Pakistani citizen that, I mean, he made a terrorist attack. It was not organized. I mean, he did not even know that Charlie Hebdo was switched offices, but he did stabbed and nearly killed somebody. So it was a terrorist attack. It was not very much well prepared, but it was a terrorist attack. And the very serious problem there is that Pakistan's prime minister, instead of saying we condemn unequivocally these sort of things, he said the opposite. He said that the fault was with France and that was actually attacking the Prophet. So it was a question of extraterritoriality of blasphemy laws. I mean, he's not happy with having them in his country. He wants to apply it everywhere. So this is the situation we are facing. So
just allow me to say one thing regarding this point that you are mentioning. Now, you see, blasphemy law are 3 articles, A, B, C. A is regarding all the religions and personalities of the religion and scriptures. B is regarding only the Holy Quran, and the sentence is for life imprisonment. Whereas for 295 C is regarding only the Prophet Muhammad. And intentional or non-intentional, any act is condemned by death sentence. Now, Imran Khan, together with Turkey, is founding a TV to make West aware of Islamophobia in the West. Now, I will ask a question to Imran Khan or any Prime Minister of Pakistan. You are promoting the idea of Islamophobia in the West, so much so that in just last couple of months, there has been a new approval of congressional approval in USA on Islamophobia, and there is now official work on this aspect. But there is so much of Christianophobia, anti-Semitism. Let's not forget 826 Jews who are living in Pakistan, and they can vote as citizens of Pakistan, but they are living in a hidden reality. The graveyard of Jews in Karachi, you see, vandals go there and they do very offensive acts just because they belong to the Jewish faith. And there is a hatred against Israel, there is hatred against Jews, and these 826 Jewish citizens of Pakistan, they are living secretly in Pakistan. They cannot appear in public. So they are talking of Islamophobia abroad in Europe, in USA, because they are interested to have Islamic migration in these countries. They want to have more money for their own countries to be invested so that they can promote their own agenda. But what about the hatred against these other religions which is there? So what about Christianophobia, anti-Semitism in Pakistan? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to remind what I did say in the comments. We have already some comments coming, one from YouTube, but we have, for instance, a lot of very interesting comments by Marcela. I mean, you can make them public to everybody. If you use the all button, there is a I think you will the screen, your screen should be like mine, I suppose. And there is all, and if you put all, everybody will see it. I mean, not only those of us who are around the table, but also those who are following us in Facebook and in YouTube. We are, I mean, we did exceed our time of initial interventions. We still have nearly a quarter of an hour. I don't know if any of you want to get to some specific point at this moment. Siegfried or Willy as well. Perhaps we will follow this order. Siegfried first, and then Willy. Okay. Siegfried, please.
I will just say goodbye because I have to leave for my office. Thank you very much. Best wishes.
We will remain in touch.
Yes,
we will
sure,
remain
sure.
in touch. For
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you so much for your presence.
When you allow me, I want to make one additional comment to Marcela's rationale. I totally agree about the problem that laws get overruled by clerics. This is one dimension, but I see also a second dimension which we not talked about yet, but it's very important when it comes to the worsening perspective of human rights in Pakistan, also on other issues, and where the European Union should act. When it comes to the setup of institution, one thing is a typical Pakistan strategy. There are the conventions, they have to address the concerns of the international community, and what is done, they just set up a commission for human rights, commission for minorities, and blah, 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 blah. But this is on paper, yeah? And as works until now, the European bureaucrats say, oh, fantastic, Pakistan has a new commission on human rights. The country is on a wonderful, excellent track. Perfect for GSP Plus. Yeah, it works. But you have to learn to look more in detail, in particular our responsible bureaucrats who are doing the assessment and the monitoring, that where's the point to set up a commission when you don't stuff them with people, with resources and nothing. Just have a look on the Human Rights Commission in Pakistan, what kind of resources they have. I mean, this is another side of where we should look at and pressure Pakistani authorities not only to do this cosmetic stuff, but also concrete action behind this paper tigers, which are created to please the international community. This is just one point I wanted to make directly to Marcela.
Okay, so
exactly at the moment when
Marcela,
you started talking to me, I lost all sound connection to you.
Yes, that's yeah. I mean, technology is not helping us very much. Perhaps as Marcela was suggesting, there are some
the moment that
around,
Pakistan makes a commission, bam. And then what did you say, Siegfried?
We are not hearing you very well. May I just proceed to Willy, and then I will give the floor to you, please, Willy.
Just to say that I fully agree to what has just been said. A lot of words, a lot of initiatives just for the gallery, just to show that they are doing something, but no concrete action. And on the side of the European Union, no concrete implementation of the GSP+. But what I would like to stress is that since the beginning of this year, it means only 3 months, we have noticed really an inflation of the number of cases of instrumentalization of the laws against blasphemy. In February, someone was stoned to death for allegedly desecrating a Quran. Then we had a Hindu school principal who was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Again, just imaginary, derogatory remarks about the prophet. We had also a Protestant pastor that was aged 75 years, who was shot to death by two aggressors. So violence is present all the time around minorities, whatever they are, Christians or Hindus or others. And a woman also, a Muslim woman, was also sentenced to death for allegedly committing blasphemy on WhatsApp. So those cases are not absolutely numerous, and only a small portion of such incidents are really accessible through open sources. So really, I'm begging the European Union to take all these egregious violations of human rights in consideration when they make their assessment of the implementation of the GSP+.
Thank you very much, Willy. I think this is a must, and I think that this program and this recording and these words certainly will be sent directly to those who are responsible for these conversations. We lost the image of Marcela. I'm not sure if it is a technical. Oh, you're there, Marcela.
No, I did by purpose,
please.
because if apparently I have a bad connection, so I cut the video, hoping that the sound will be decent. Yeah, but no, I just wanted to insist that it is important that it becomes a prominent demand that that the country implements its own laws completely. Not halfway, like Tabassum was telling us. That they say, okay, granted, the marriage is not valid, but still they don't let the girl go. So these half measures that they are so used to, they are in contradiction to what they always tell the European Union, in the sense that, yes, we have these beautiful laws, we have this new commission, we have this, etc., and then they there's something goes wrong, and they say, we are so sentimental. We are so it's religious sentiment. Don't hurt religious sentiment. So are they legal or are they crying babies? I mean, this is really something that goes completely against even the spirit of the religion of Islam, that promotes self-control and tolerance and peace promotion, etc. And then they hide themselves every time behind a curtain of sentimentality that is in international trade. I'm sorry, we're talking about international trade, not about being nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcela. I think that you are absolutely right. I think that, I think that a lot of the problem comes from sheer ignorance. Actually, I did learn about, Muslim people by, I always say that, by getting lost in Iraq was the best school I've ever had. And so, I mean, I know a bit, I'm not in this bubble, in this Brussels bubble. Problem is this Brussels bubble that doesn't allow people to understand what's going on. And so they think a lot of nonsense. Of course, Muslim people are like everybody else, fundamentally. We are persons, we are people, we all have sentiments. Sometimes we behave better, sometimes we behave worse, but we are people, okay? So there is no reason why to consider people differently from this point of view. I mean, we have to see human beings. That's my point of view, we have to see human beings, and we should not paternalize, this paternalization of the poor Muslim that feels very aggressed. I mean, of course, that aggression is aggression and insult is insult, and everybody can feel that. And of course, it goes without saying that this we should not do it on a gratuitous basis, but we should not feed this sort of sentiment. This is completely makes no sense, and actually this only the result of this is what we have seen in this conversation. These testimonies that were shared, and I would say that really, Ms. Tabassum Yousaf, your testimony was the most impressive. I think that it really can move mountains, because that's what people need to see. It's exactly what is going on, and from a lady like you. This is what lacks here in this Brussels bubble. When I saw, for instance, when I discussed with the former representative of the European Union in Pakistan, I mean, how did they organize? I mean, the whole of the organization of the GSP Plus discussion, I mean, it was absolutely outrageous. I mean, they were supposed to have been hearing civil society. They did hear no civil society whatsoever. I mean, the company that actually made the study of the revision of the GSP Plus, I mean, it was a Chinese company with a Chinese criteria for human rights, hired by Europe. That's a fact, you know. It's beyond belief, but that's exactly what happened. And of course, we cannot be surprised that this company they couldn't care less about human rights. Obviously, how could it be otherwise? But this is the way that this European Union is working. I mean, everybody is hiring somebody else, and then suddenly you see that Chinese companies, people that are obviously Islamist supremacists, they are calling the shots, and they are the ones who are behaving and paid by the European Union budget. I've seen that time and time again. And of course, if you say something, oh, it's Islamophobia, which is completely preposterous. I mean, me personally, I have to say that I love Muslim women and people in general, like anybody else, regardless of the religion. Of course, I'm not saying I assume I am Catholic, well, not the same way you are, most likely. I mean, I'm not going to discuss this, but people are people. Human beings are human beings. Be them Ukrainians, be them Mozambicans, be them South Asians, whatever. Never mind. And in my life, I always have been for people. And those who are receiving this Islamophobia, gospel, they don't know what they are speaking about. Well, some of them they do, and they have not good intentions, but most of them they don't know what they are speaking about, and that's the problem. They are ignorant. They don't go to the place. Yeah, please, Willy. Willy, you wanted to come to.
Yeah, I would like to stress that intolerance is so widespread and intense in Pakistan that even the dead cannot rest in peace. Concretely, you know that Ahmadis are banned as a heretical group. They cannot call themselves Muslims. And in a graveyard recently, 45 Ahmadi graves were desecrated just because they were using holy verses from the Quran on the tombstones. Just a very concrete example. Even when you're dead, you're still discriminated against, you're still a victim of intolerance.
Absolutely. I mean, to forbid someone to say that I want to use the Quran because this someone is supposed to be impure and not sufficiently Muslim, it's the complete lunacy. But this is law, and this is what's done in Pakistan, and it never stopped. If we don't do nothing, it won't stop. That's for sure. And I think that you are doing a lot. Just my concluding remarks. We finished our time. So to all of you, I mean, most in particular to Ms. Tabassum Yousaf, please continue. We are really very moved by our words. Marcela and Willy, you were absolutely fantastic. I'm not, we are not anymore with Shahid Mobeen, but thanks very much for him. Siegfried, and allow me, in the dark, behind us is the producer and the one who managed the whole of this and a lot of problems. My computer wasn't working. It was a mess. Albino is behind us, and thank you very much, Albino. You are crucial in the success of this event. So thank you all, and let's see what we can do with these very wise words. How can we press the European institutions to go differently? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.